Have you ever felt like you're living a life that isn't quite yours? Like every day you put on an everything's fine expression on your face, while inside something screams that something is out of place. Like you're slowly drifting away from who you really are. So did she. Sara Blakely seemed like just another woman among thousands of women trying to make something happen. She knocked on doors, trying to sell fax machines with practiced enthusiasm, while the world seemed to laugh at her efforts. She laughed on the outside and broke on the inside. What no one saw was that behind this underrated saleswoman was a spark, a nagging idea, a quiet voice saying, "This is not the end for me." And perhaps you know this voice well, the one that whispers in the midst of chaos, "You were born for more, on." But when the world insists on putting you in the same old place, believing in yourself becomes an invisible decision. And that's exactly what Sara did. She decided that no one else would dictate her destiny. Here, every story is a spark. Every video is a safe space to remember who you are, even when the world tries to make you forget. This video isn't just about success. It's about what happens when you're the only person who believes in an idea, when everyone else says that won't work, and you respond with action. When failure stops being an outcome and becomes simply not trying something new, what you're about to discover may surprise you. Because we're not talking about a millionaire mind that was born ready. We're talking about a woman who heard no more than 100 times, who was ignored by all the men in the lingerie industry, who had no money, no support, no technical knowledge, and yet decided to build an empire with what she had: scissors, intuition, and courage. Have you ever been through this? Have you ever had an idea that seemed too crazy? Have you ever thought about giving up because no one around? You believed in your potential? Then stay with me until the end, because today's story could be exactly the push you were waiting for to reconnect with your truth. This isn't just the story of the Spanx founder. It's the story of someone who made the invisible her turning point. Someone who turned rejection into fuel. Someone who decided to create a new path without permission. And that's where it all begins, because the most powerful thing about this story is not what she achieved. It's what she overcame. And this touches on a point that you may also carry in silence. How many ideas have you abandoned because they didn't seem good enough? How many times have you silenced yourself because no one around you validated what you felt? How many dreams have you hidden just because it seemed safer to stay where you were? Sara didn't have any of the classic ingredients for success, but she had something that no one could take away: the decision to remain invisible. And sometimes, that's what separates those who turn the key from those who keep trying to find it. If this topic resonates with you, leave a comment below with what has touched you the most so far. Share your experience, your doubts, or even that moment when you almost gave up. It may seem like just a comment, but it is actually part of a larger conversation. It is the spark that can help someone else see themselves in this story too. And if this content made you feel something, a memory, a desire, a change of heart, click the like button. This shows YouTube that this type of video deserves to reach more people. And believe me, when this type of message spreads, it does more than engage. It transforms. If you want to continue receiving stories that inspire courage, authenticity, and purpose, subscribe to the channel here. Your presence here is what makes this space exist. It is what keeps alive this community of people who, like you, have already understood that visible results come from invisible decisions. And it is with this spirit that we continue, because Sara's turning point was still far from over. Most people know Sara Blakely, the billionaire, but almost no one knows the woman who spent all day walking around in high heels, knocking on doors, trying to sell fax machines, a product that no one wanted, in a market that was already dying. She wasn't a CEO, she wasn't influential, she wasn't respected. She was just another saleswoman trying to meet her monthly target. But behind that hard-working employee image, there was a silent accumulation of frustrations, shelved dreams, and an uncomfortable desire for something bigger. It wasn't just about money. It was about identity, about not accepting being reduced to a badge. And the most curious thing, she was good. She knew how to communicate, how to connect, how to sell. But no matter how much she stood out, she was always underestimated, always treated as the nice girl on the team. What she delivered was not enough to break the bubble of the average. And perhaps this is the most invisible point of rock bottom. When you start to question whether you are expecting too much from life, or if life is offering you too little. It was in this scenario that the spark for Spanx was born. It wasn't in a fancy office, nor in a strategy meeting. It was in her bathroom at home in an intimate, uncomfortable moment when she cut the legs of her own leggings because she didn't want them to show under her clothes. It was there, with scissors in hand and zero glamour, that something inside her was awakened. A question as simple as it was powerful. What if this could work for more people? She had no technical knowledge, no contacts, no investors. But she had something that is often worth more than all that. Vision. A vision that didn't need to be validated to exist. And when she took this idea, a shapewear piece made by a woman, designed for the real bodies of other women, to the men in the industry, the response was as predictable as it was frustrating. They laughed. They said it was ridiculous. That no woman would buy that no one would wear a piece like that she was wasting her time on an idea that had no future. But there is a hidden truth in this type of rejection. Often, what the market calls noise is just its lack of courage to understand something new. And that was exactly why Sara didn't stop, because she felt, almost physically, that this idea, as crazy as it seemed, was born from real pain, and pain real always finds an echo in someone. Now I want to go even deeper into this subject, because what happened after that moment of denial says a lot about the mindset behind great comebacks, about what happens behind the scenes of an invisible decision, the one that no one sees, but that changes absolutely everything. Comment here, I'm on that journey too. This is where the story changes tone. And perhaps without you realizing it, this is where yours can start to change too. Because every real change happens in that silent place where no one is applauding, where no one sees anything happening. But inside the person, everything has already changed. Sara had no proof that her idea would work. She only had a stubborn conviction, the kind you feel in your body before you can explain it with words. And that conviction turned into action. She didn't wait for someone to validate her. She didn't wait for the right investor to come along. She didn't wait for approval from someone who never understood her vision. Instead, she picked up the phone and started calling. Did one factory say no? She called another. Did she have no design experience or industry contacts? She started studying. She wrote her own patent, something many experienced entrepreneurs are afraid to do. The money. She used the $5,000 she had saved, and not as a last resort, but as her first vote of confidence in herself. These kinds of decisions don't usually make the news. No one films them. No one celebrates them. But it's exactly this kind of invisible decision that creates the impact that the world only recognizes later. There's a very specific mindset behind it, not waiting for permission to become who you know you can be. And that takes emotional courage, because it's much easier to believe in what's visible. In the diploma, the job title, the signed contract. But what about when all you have is an idea and an absurd amount of faith in it? Sara repeated to herself a simple but powerful phrase. If no one believes, I will be the first to believe in myself. This is the essence of all profound transformation. It's not about having everything ready, but about acting as if you already know where it's going, as if you already see what others can't yet see. This silent faith, this inner movement that arises when no one is looking, that's what creates extraordinary results. While many were waiting for the perfect opportunity, she created a chance where there seemed to be none. And this is one of the great hidden truths of the journey of someone who builds something from scratch. Doors don't open by themselves. You have to push, sometimes gently, sometimes hard, sometimes more than once. But always with that firm conviction of someone who has already decided to continue. It was this decision that led her to call several stores one by one, until one day, one of them said yes. And that yes changed everything. Nordstrom, one of the most respected retail chains in the United States, agreed to carry Spanx on its shelves. For the first time, something that had previously existed only on paper and in her faith was now before the public's eyes. And that was the beginning of a new phase, because the world finally had access to what she had believed for a long time, that there was room for a new solution. That discomfort could end, that this strange idea, born on the bathroom floor, could become a revolution. Now I want to go even deeper into this subject, because what happened after that yes reveals much more than success. It reveals the behind the scenes of how an idea turns into a legacy. Comment here. That makes sense to me. It wasn't until she had made the decision, taken the risk and executed, albeit on her own, that the world began to pay attention, and when it did, it was as if it had happened all at once. But the hidden truth behind every overnight success is that it was almost always quietly built, long before it became visible. The day Oprah Winfrey named Spanx as one of her favorite products seemed to outsiders like the beginning of her good fortune. To those who knew the behind-the-scenes story of her journey, it was just the moment when her truth became undeniable. In a short time, sales exploded. What was once a makeshift product on the floor of a house became a real solution for thousands of women. And not only that, it became a conversation, a trend, a movement. Suddenly, the same industry that laughed at the idea began to run after it. The market began to adjust to the boldness of someone who did not follow the mold. And that is when the transformation is complete. When you realize that by not fitting into the system, you ended up shaping a new one. Sara Blakely became the first woman in the world to build a billion-dollar underwear company, all by herself. No inheritance, no investor, no foolproof plan. Just her own sharp mind, a heart committed to the truth, and the sheer courage to follow through even when she didn't know exactly what she'd find there. This isn't just a financial achievement, it's a mindset milestone. It's a clear statement that your vision, when backed up with action and consistency, has the power to reshape entire patterns. But the most beautiful thing is what comes next. When she starts using her story not only as a showcase of success, but as a bridge for other people to overcome their own fears. Because when someone like Sara gets this far, the impact goes far beyond the number on the account. It touches what is most dormant in us, the real possibility of changing the course of our own lives, and this is rarer than it seems. Because not everyone who gets there shares the path. Not everyone who succeeds teaches how to succeed. But when someone turns their own journey into a beacon, without romanticizing it, without skipping steps, without erasing the pain, the effect is multiplied. Suddenly, it's no longer just about them. It's about those who see themselves in it. It's about the people who start to say, if she did it, maybe I can too. Now let's delve even deeper into this subject, because there is a specific point in this journey where almost no one pays attention. The moment when the world begins to recognize what you already knew back then, and how this demands a new way of dealing with your own identity. Comment here. It too really inspires me. How many times have you found yourself staring at the ceiling with that feeling that life could be more than this, but without knowing where to start? How many of your ideas died in silence, not because they were bad, but because you didn't have support, or simply didn't believe that it could be you? What if the only thing that was missing was not another course, nor more time, nor a new formula, but a decision that no one sees? Sara's story touches us deeply precisely for this reason. Because she wasn't born with a silver spoon in her mouth, she wasn't a prodigy, she didn't have investors or connections. She had what you have inside of you, the ability to make decisions, even when everything around you is screaming at you to stop. And maybe right now you're going through something similar. Maybe you're trying to make it work in silence while the world doesn't seem to hear you. Maybe you're surrounded by people who look at you as if you were dreaming too big, expecting too much, believing too much. But look, what if it's not too much? What if it's exactly what you need to insist on? What if what seems too much now is what will inspire others tomorrow to not give up either? The truth is that most people give up before the first sign of an answer, because they get tired of hearing no. They get tired of being invisible. They get tired of carrying an idea and not having anyone to share it with. But it's precisely at this point, the loneliest, the most confusing, that the greatest transformations arise. Not because something magical happens, but because you decide to keep going anyway. And if you're still here watching this, feeling this story hit you in some part, it's because maybe your turning point is also near. It may not seem like it. Everything may still be a mess inside you, with no certainties, no structure. But look, it was exactly in this chaos that Sara planted the idea that became her empire. It didn't come after everything was organized. It came in the midst of doubt, frustration, exhaustion. That's why I tell you with all sincerity, you don't need to be ready. You need to be determined. What is the idea that keeps nagging at you? What is the project that you keep putting off, waiting for conditions to improve? What if you started with what you have now? What if you stopped asking permission, not from others, but from yourself? The journey of anyone who has changed. Their destiny begins like this, with a silent enough, with an I will even without knowing how, with an I believe even without guarantees. Most people wait for the right moment. The great ones create the moment, and you don't need to be famous or a billionaire or an expert. You just need to be honest with what pulses within you. It doesn't matter if no one understands now. Sara was also discredited, and that's exactly why she needed to be the first to believe. Maybe this is your time too, to stop waiting for the world to understand and start choosing yourself for real. Comment here. I decide for myself. If you've made it this far truly, thank you for trusting this time to share your own story as well. This video wasn't just about Sara. It was about recognizing in someone what, perhaps, has been inside you for a long time, waiting for the right moment to be born. And if at some point you felt seen, touched, understood, that's the kind of connection we build here. If this content helped you see your journey more clearly, if it made a change in your life, subscribe to the channel. Because it is with videos like this that we continue to walk together, one step at a time, respecting the real time of major transformations. And if you want to leave a record that you stayed with me until the end, write here in the comments. That message was for me. Oh, and if this video made sense to you, leave a like. Not because of the numbers, but because it shows that this kind of conversation needs to continue to exist. There is a video here on the side that complements this. Subject, click and continue with me there. We still have a lot to awaken.